everyone. As millennials, we're rebels. We just don't want to settle down easily and like taking risks. Job hopping, globe-trotting in search of better careers, fatter paychecks, and wilder adventures. So in case you're someone who's looking to move to a completely different culture and start an international career, now is the right time to start planning. What? In the middle of a complete pandemic? Exactly. Globalization may seem to be down, but it's definitely not out. As a matter of fact, after the 2008 financial crisis, there has been far much more migration than at any given point of time in history. Which is why we at Inside Campus are going to tell you what Indian young millennials with engineering degrees should be looking for when they think of working abroad. A huge survey taking into account 22,000 respondents from 64 countries conducted by Internations came down to 4 factors that can actually be the making or breaking point. Now, in case you're somebody who's looking for a great work-life balance, Europe is definitely on your list. But do check out how the terms of paid vacation differ. For instance, if you would be looking to Nordic countries, France or the UK, you can take every 12th day off, literally. But when it comes to moving closer to home in Asia, Singapore, Taiwan, Malaysia may seem to be pretty attractive. Because of the distance, yet they only allow 7 days of annual paid leave. You really can't take a long holiday there. In stark contrast, other Asian countries of the Gulf like UAE, Qatar, Bahrain give you 30 days off, and so do the other European countries like Finland, Switzerland, Germany, and many others. And you should definitely avoid the United States. I mean, there is nothing called a paid leave, even a sick paid leave. If you're someone who's ready to slog themselves off and doesn't mind getting a few extra bucks, well, Australia seems to pay a great deal for night shifts. Complete opposites, the Kiwis in New Zealand don't have any specific laws for overtime. And 30% of the workforce still has to clock in a few extra hours per week, usually ranging between 4 to 5. Which may not seem to be that bad for Indians. Let's talk about the Asian tigers. Honestly, if there was like a prize for the most stressed out nations in the world, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Japan would have a tough competition. I mean, if you walk into an office in South Korea, you will see virtual reality cafes, anti-rage rooms where people can go about smashing objects, and buses with overnight parties because employees so badly want to de-stress there. The really odds in Asia are Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan, which pay you 1.5 times higher for every hour you work extra on a weekday, twice for a weekend, and thrice for a national public holiday. Job security. The pandemic has caused a huge uproar in terms of layoffs, furloughs, and redundancies. But Germany, Sweden, and Netherlands can be great places to lose your job. I mean, Sweden actually gives you mentorship sessions, counseling from the government to help you get re-employed. In Germany, there's a short-time work model which has been praised since the 2008 crisis that allows you to work on shortened duration, and the expenses are actually covered by the government. So you're not really losing out on anything. Netherlands, like Germany, also has don't fire your employees policy. It actually makes it very difficult for companies to fire international workers because they really need to provide evidence of why they couldn't shift them to another position in the company. If you're looking for job opportunities from the perspective of a master's, Germany gives you 18 months post-residence, Sweden is extended up to 2 years, and Netherlands allows you 1 year again. In the Europe, I would honestly say Switzerland performs the worst for post-study job opportunities because it only gives you 6 months to find a job. Australia and New Zealand have really rolled out their carpets for international students, both allowing 3 years of residence post-masters and 4 years after a PhD. But there's a catch. Even though Australia is really giving permanent residencies out right now, you can only work in cities apart from Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney, which basically means you're working with a large population which is not multicultural, extremely very indigenous, as well, do not have a lot of job opportunities. When you look at any rankings, you will always find that the Nordic countries seem to be the happiest. in terms of every indicator. Honestly speaking, the Scandinavian countries are very tightly knit, which means it can be difficult to find jobs for foreign workers. Norway, being oil rich, has a lot of jobs for chemical engineers, sustainability, and green energy opportunities. What's not so great? It requires Norwegian to be spoken and only allows you 6 months of post-study residence, which can be quite a disadvantage. Denmark seemed to be a better option. It is English speaking and has been having a problem with a shortage of foreign workers in special occupations. But they're not very open to fresh graduates even if they graduate from Danish universities. Finland can seem to be quite a catch. I mean, they give you 2 years of residence post your masters, but it's a very hard nut to crack. I would say Sweden performs the best. It gives you a lot of opportunities if you're a mechanical engineer because it does pretty well in its natural resources. If you're a civil engineer looking to do something in urban design and architecture because you've been swooned by their sustainability, honestly, I'm so sorry to break your bubble, but those jobs are only reserved for the locals. All in all, Sweden definitely fares a lot better than other countries in the Nordic model. Singapore in Asia was always that expat haven because of its high salaries. But the government has really tightened its grip over foreign workers, including FANG companies which have introduced a quota system. If you do graduate from Singaporean schools, you may have definitely higher chances. Overall, the UK seems to be extremely struggling with its economy. But Ireland seems to fare better. After all, it's the 8th most business-friendly country, thriving with startups, especially in AI, blockchain, and cryptocurrency. It has a lot of jobs for mechanical and IT industry as well as the most established pharma market in Europe after Germany. When it comes to ease of settling in, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. How many people from the same ethnicity as me live in the country? How good are the locals towards foreign workers, or do they fear competition in jobs? How great is the other expat local community? Are there language barriers in the workplace or getting around? Well, all in all, Taiwan seems to be a clear winner. The Taiwanese are the 4th friendliest people on the planet. As a matter of fact, 30% of expats in Taiwan say that they wouldn't have been happier living anywhere else. It's got the most inclusive workplaces with no discrimination on gender pay gap or against any particular nationality in the workplace. Also, it's great for electronics, instrumentation, and hardware engineers because this is literally the mecca of semiconductor jobs. Also, the biggest advantage, it doesn't suffer from the authoritarian regime of China, the political instability of Hong Kong, and the language barrier of both these countries. Germany may seem to be like the birthplace of every engineering occupation you could think of. Hey, but Netherlands is not far behind. As a matter of fact, it's equally competitive. The only disadvantage though is Netherlands has very high taxes, high cost of living, pricey transport, and even accommodation shortages. But if you do get lost on the roads, the Germans may turn a blind eye, but the Dutch would willingly help you out. Japan definitely ranks pretty low when it comes to moving in. Japanese may seem to be pretty friendly on the face, but they wouldn't want you to live there forever. English is becoming a widely popular language with 18% of its workforce being international. But hey, that's going to only get better. Japan, in the middle of a pandemic, has rolled out a visa for semi-skilled workers that they can actually work and live in Japan for up to 10 years and even get a permanent residence. Honestly, if I had to put like 4 countries in my get rich quick guide, I would say Luxembourg should be the first. I know it's not a common country in the NRI lexicon, but if you want to feel European, get rid of all those taxes, Luxembourg is it. It has a very strong economy in terms of a lot of job opportunities for banking, telecom, finance, and a fairly decent IT sector. It's thriving in terms of startups, so fintech is another opportunity you should grab. 50% of all the residents are actually expats, so getting around by just speaking English should actually do very much fine. Also, unlike the smaller economies and tax havens of the Gulf, Luxembourg doesn't suffer from being economically unstable. And how can I forget Switzerland? I mean, it's got the most awesome salaries in the world. I know what you're thinking, but it's hell expensive. If you're single and can somewhat sacrifice on your lifestyle, that is, you don't live for that wine and dine culture, it has the highest disposable incomes after Luxembourg, which basically means incomes minus your taxes and all other general expenditures. You save a lot. The only problem though in Switzerland is that there is a big gender pay gap. So women in general aren't promoted to managerial and higher positions. A very surprising country is Estonia. Basically, it's so technologically advanced ahead of its time that it's even jokingly called E-Estonia. The Estonians love to solve problems with technology, so it's actually thriving with startups. As a matter of fact, you can even open your own business in Estonia without ever having lived there. And fourth is Dubai. I know you're seeing pictures of Indian migrants going back home and jobs lost, with 10% of the population already fled back to their home countries. But the biggest advantage that Dubai has is its position between West and East. The fact that you don't need any particular language and English is the main mode of communication, high salaries, and only 5% of the population is actually locals. So they always need the international workforce. It's a very safe place for women, easy to get around, and has absolutely amazing online government services. If I actually had to do a top list of countries you should definitely do a detailed analysis of: Canada, Germany, Switzerland, Norway, Belgium, Australia, New Zealand should be on your priority list. And you definitely want to avoid some countries altogether. Belgium, high taxes, very poor return on investment, poor justice system. Portugal, red tapeism, high bureaucracy. Italy, very weakening economy. Kuwait, high racism, distrust towards foreign workers, and a new international expat quota system. Saudi Arabia, gender inequality, lack of democracy. China, large amounts of censorship, global trade, tariffs, and issues. Austria, for very poor international exposure in the corporate world. Well, that's a wrap. I hope I did enough justice to this analysis. Let me know in case there's anything I missed out, and do let me know what's your ideal dream destination to migrate to, or even be like a millennial nomad. Thank you.